Perhaps the most famous man in the modern music industry, the extraordinarily talented Michael Jackson led a strange and complex life. Alternatively loved and vilified, the intensely secretive singer and dancer spent much of his later years in hiding from the public and press. For a complicated and driven person, his message to his huge fan base was often simple and heartfelt.
We must learn to live and love each other before it's too late. We have to stop. We have to stop the prejudice. We have to stop the hating. We have to stop living in fear of our own neighbors.
Michael was the 8th and most precocious of the 10 children born to Catherine and Joseph Jackson. At the age of 8, he appeared alongside his older brothers Marlon, Jackie, Tito and Jermaine as the lead singer of the Jackson 5 in the mid-60s. The group released 4 studio albums with Motown Records, with several top 40 hits over 10 years of performing. The boys were preternaturally talented and ambitious, but there was help behind the scenes.
Michael Jackson's childhood was controversial. His father was the one who put together the Jackson 5, and if you watch biographies about their life and read books about their lives, he was the one that really drove the family, and he was the one that in fact made the brothers and sisters kind of alienate the family when they got older.
Joe Jackson was a hard taskmaster, and Michael and some of his siblings would later go public about the abuse they suffered as children. In 1975, the group signed with CBS Records, changing their name to the Jacksons. They released 6 albums between 1976 and 1984, with Michael as the lead songwriter. At an auction in 2007, prompted by the singer's cash flow problems, over 1,000 items offered a unique insight into the Jackson world.
This collection reflects a family that came from very humble beginnings and reached the highest levels of stardom, changed the face of music as we know it today. Not only their music, their dance, their designs are all reflected in what we hear today.
The brothers were known not only for their melodic pop, but also for their sartorial elegance.
Clearly, clothing, which the Jacksons were well known for, make up an important part of this auction. There are hundreds of exciting, flashy, terrific, custom-designed outfits, a few of which we have here. Michael Jackson's beautifully embroidered jacket, just as the red jacket over there was Michael's, as was this when he was a member of the Jackson 5. We have pictures of him wearing it.
While continuing to work with his brothers, Michael began focusing on his own career, and in 1979 released his breakthrough album, Off the Wall. Produced in collaboration with Quincy Jones, this became the first album to generate 4 US top 10 hits. In 1982, he released Thriller, which became the most commercially successful album of all time, selling around 110 million copies worldwide. At the time, he commanded an outstanding royalty rate of around $2 per album. Sales of Thriller, along with its associated merchandise, helped turn him into a multi-millionaire. Videos like Billie Jean and Beat It also showcased his trailblazing dancing talent, cementing his status as a bona fide musical genius. During the 1980s and 90s, the King of Pop continued his punishing schedule, winning Grammys, performing to record-breaking crowds, selling millions of records, and making astute business deals. Many of his siblings also had performing careers, but none of them could eclipse Michael's incredible star power. In 2001, he appeared alongside his brothers for the first time since 1984, to celebrate 30 years of being a solo artist. That same year, it became public knowledge that Michael had fallen out with his record label, Sony Music Entertainment, who ran Epic Records. Michael had believed that the licenses of the masters of his records were due to revert to him, and he was infuriated to discover that Sony would retain ownership of them for some time to come. He was also wary of Sony's wish to buy him out of their lucrative music catalogue deal, suggesting that they had failed to promote his latest album Invincible in order to pressure him to sell. At a London club in 2002, he didn't disguise his contempt.
So we can't let them get away with what they're trying to do, because now I'm a free agent. I just owe Sony one more album. It's just a box set, really. It's with 2 new songs, which I've written ages ago. Because every album that I record, I write, like, literally, I'm telling you the truth, I write at least 120 songs every album I do. So I'm leaving Sony a free agent. Owning half of Sony.
In 2006, he was back in London at the Guinness Book of World Records office, where he was presented with an amazing 8 world record certificates, including highest paid entertainer of all time. Throughout his brilliant career, Michael had always been humbled by the public outpourings of love from his massive fan base. In 1999, he was in South Korea, where he opened an amusement park called Everland, modelled on his own park in California, Neverland.
I've achieved many great things in my life, and truly today is one of the most honorable days of my life. I'm so happy. It's one of the greatest things that's ever happened to me. Thank you so much. I love you, Korea.
3 years later, he was set upon by English fans at London's Paddington railway station, when he arrived with magician Uri Geller.
I've never, ever, ever seen anything like that, and I hope I will never see it again, because Michael was crushed. He actually fell on the platform. Now let me tell you this, if Michael wasn't in the shape that he is in, he would have stayed there.
The King of Pop also devoted his energy and determination to his philanthropic work. In 1992, he founded the Heal the World Foundation to help children afflicted with war, poverty and disease. A check of $1 million was presented at the launch by Michael's long-term sponsor Pepsi, and the charity has since gone on to raise many more millions of dollars. 3 years later, while in Germany, he donated a custom-made jacket, worn during his performance at the 29th American Music Awards, where he won Artist of the Century. The jacket went on to fetch more than $16,000. Michael was also an early advocate for raising awareness of AIDS. In 2004, even as he himself was embroiled in a scandal, he found time to meet with US congressmen to discuss the AIDS pandemic in Africa. The flamboyant performer began courting controversy early on in his adult career. Denied a childhood, he had never hidden the fact that he had a special affinity with children, and his famous theme park Neverland can be seen as a monument to his refusal to grow up. In 1993, a 13-year-old boy, Jordan Chandler, accused Michael of sexual abuse. Jordan's father, a dentist, administered a truth drug to his son, and under its influence, the boy claimed that Michael had touched him inappropriately. As Michael entered into negotiations with the family, a tape of Jordan's father bragging about how he would destroy the singer was leaked to the press, who pronounced Michael guilty without any concrete evidence. The case was settled out of court with a $22 million payment. Despite that traumatic experience, Michael continued his close associations with children, and in 2003 he was charged again in California in relation to another 13-year-old boy. Gavin Arvizo was a young cancer victim who had spent nights at the singer's ranch.
The felony complaint involves 9 counts. 7 counts of 288A in violation of the California Penal Code, commonly known as child molestation, and 2 counts in violation of Penal Code Section 222 that involves administering an intoxicating liquor to a child for the purpose of committing a felony.
Along with his friends and family, Michael continued to plead his innocence, while American fans were equally vocal in their support, even calling into question the motives of the prosecutor.
I'm here to support Michael 100%, because he's innocent until proven guilty.
I think he's a wonderful, caring person. And I believe in his innocence.
Thompson is a liar. He's really greedy. All he wants is money, you know? He just wants to have Michael in a big hole of misery and never get out, you know?
Not surprisingly, the 2-year proceedings had a significant effect on Michael's health, and it was rumored that he'd become addicted to pethidine as a way of dealing with the stress. He also lost a lot of weight. Around this time, Michael began to experience financial issues as his spending overtook his earnings. Finally acquitted on all counts in 2005, many people wondered if the reclusive singer would recover. Harrison Funk, once a key member of the Jackson entourage, had no doubts he would bounce back.
Michael's he's very young at heart, and he's very innocent in his own way, and he's a lovely man, and I don't think he'd hurt anybody. So I think that of course it's left some scars. The answer is Michael is very resilient. He's a fighter. You don't tour for as many days a year as he has in his lifetime. You don't dance as many days. You don't work out as much as Michael does. You don't fight for what you believe in without being resilient. And Michael, I think, is very resilient.
After the trial, Michael moved to the Persian Gulf island of Bahrain as a guest of Sheikh Abdullah, but Harrison was sure of the singer's future.
I think that Michael will rebuild his public persona and recapture a lot of the fans that he may have lost during this period of time. Michael is a very loving person, and Michael loves children, he loves adults. He is a very giving and a very, very philanthropic person, a humanitarian.
But that wasn't the end of Michael's legal troubles. He also landed in court to battle it out over custody of his 2 children, Michael Joseph, known as Prince, and Paris Michael Catherine. His ex-wife, dermatology nurse Deborah Rowe, planned to serve papers claiming he was an unfit father, just as he was fighting the child molestation charges. In 2006, he agreed to share joint custody with Debbie. Around this time, he also had a very public split with his former close friend, magician Uri Geller, who claimed that Michael had left an abusive message on his former advisor's answer machine tape.
When I heard about these alleged comments coming from Michael Jackson on a taped message he left, I was absolutely shocked and appalled and saddened, both me and my wife, because Michael Jackson was our best man when we renewed our wedding vows. And the words that he used describing Jews, in my opinion, and this is my opinion, are anti-Semitic, no doubt in my mind.
There's no doubt that the pressure piled on Michael during the last decade of his life would have caused the strongest of men to buckle. In 2008, he ended up fighting off a lawsuit from his former friend Sheikh Abdullah, with whom he'd stayed after his acquittal. The second son of the King of Bahrain accused the pop star of reneging on a deal to produce an album, an autobiography and a stage play, for which he was allegedly paid millions in advance. Michael claimed the money had been a gift. Michael was married twice, firstly in an unlikely pairing to Elvis Presley's daughter Lisa Marie in 1994. The two of them had become close friends during his first child molestation scandal.
One of Michael Jackson's most shocking moments was definitely his marriage to Lisa Marie Presley, Elvis Presley's daughter. People could not believe that these two were together. She, after they divorced, went on Oprah and said that she actually was really in love with Michael Jackson. It just didn't work out.
Lisa Marie persuaded him to go into rehab to deal with the drugs he'd been taking to cope with the stress. The pair divorced less than 2 years later, but remained friends. The pop star also married Debbie Rowe, the mother of his first 2 children, apparently persuaded to do so by Michael's mother. They married in an impromptu ceremony in Sydney in 1996 and divorced 3 years later, with Debbie granting Michael full custody of their children. His third child, Prince Michael Jackson II, was born in 2002 to a surrogate mother, whose identity has not been revealed. The performer also worked hard to shelter the children from the media, although his exuberance at the birth of his third child overcame his fatherly instincts when he dangled him out of a hotel window in Berlin, to the horror of onlookers. There were many rumors surrounding Michael's increasingly strange appearance. There is little doubt in most people's minds that he had extensive plastic surgery. His relationship with the surgeon's scalpel allegedly began after an accident during rehearsals for a Pepsi commercial in 1984, when his hair caught fire and he suffered third-degree burns to his scalp. At this time, he also had his third rhinoplasty to fix an ongoing problem with his nose. Not long after that, rumors emerged that he had also had his skin lightened. Although Michael always claimed that his lighter color was due to a little-known skin disorder called vitiligo, his obsession with privacy did little to quell the rumors.
America fell in love with Michael Jackson as a cute little brown-skinned boy with a huge afro and a cute smile. As a man, he looked like a different person. He had almost white skin, very different nose, long straight hair. Despite that transformation, Michael Jackson claimed that he didn't have a lot of plastic surgery.
Following the intensely difficult years during the child molestation trial, Michael yearned to return to performing, a move which thrilled his legions of fans. He was also desperate to become financially secure again. The trial and his absence from recording and performing had put a serious dent in his cash flow. In 2006, the main house on his beloved Neverland Ranch was closed due to escalating costs, and it was rumored he'd racked up outstanding loans of up to $270 million. Although, according to Forbes, he was continuing to make as much as $75 million per year from his publishing partnership with Sony. In March 2009, he announced to an ecstatic London crowd that he would perform live for the first time since 1997.
I just want to say that these will be my final show performances in London. This will be it. This is it. And when I say this is it, it really means this is it. Because I'll be performing the songs my fans want to hear. This is it. I mean, this is really it. This is the final curtain call. Okay? And I'll see you in July.
The series of concerts was ironically titled This Is It, and Michael threw himself into long and exhausting rehearsals in California. Ticket sales to the 10-concert series at O2 Arena exceeded all expectations, selling out in a matter of minutes. The schedule was expanded to incorporate a massive tally of 50 dates. Those closest to Michael were forced to cast their minds back to the punishing tour of 1995, during which Michael had been rushed to hospital after collapsing on stage. But in a terrible turn of events, the concerts which promised to provide the music event of the decade would never see the light of day. On the 25th of June 2009, with just 3 weeks to go until opening night, Michael died of a cardiac arrest. The news flashed around the world like bolts of lightning, and for days fans across the world were struck dumb. Those closest to Michael claimed that he'd been in great shape, both physically and mentally. Former British child star and close friend Mark Lester recalled how excited Michael had been about the upcoming spectaculars.
I had no conception that this could happen. I spoke to Michael about 10 days ago, and he was bright, bubbly, really excited about coming to London. We had plans. I'm Michael's godfather. Well, I'm godfather to his children. He's the godfather of my kids. And whenever Michael comes to the UK, and we've been to the States, I've been to Neverland, my kids have been to Neverland, we've spent Christmas with Michael. We've done a lot of things over the last few years, and for him, there was no indication of him being unwell or even tired.
Michael had promised his English friend that the forthcoming concerts were going to be unlike anything he had ever seen before. But it appears to have been a well-kept secret that Michael was under a lot of stress.
I spoke to Michael for about an hour. He spoke to my kids, each and every one of them, and in fact my daughter Harriet, who's 15, Michael always says that he reminds her of Princess Diana, because she's tall, thin, blonde, and he said on his opening show he was going to get her up on stage and dedicate to her the song Dirty Diana.
On the day he died, Michael had been administered a series of drugs by his personal physician, who failed to resuscitate him when he collapsed. There were some rumours that Michael may have taken his own life, but friends and family found the idea completely ridiculous.
I wouldn't even, that is impossible. Michael lived for his children. He would not have removed himself out of their lives intentionally, so impossible. That just wouldn't have happened. He had too much to live for. He was fired up, excited. He wanted to do his shows for his kids. He wanted to show his kids what Daddy could do up there on that stage, and the adoration of his fans. There's no way that Michael would have taken his own life.
The memorial was held on the 7th of July in Los Angeles, followed by a private family service. Many old friends and family performed at the event, but surely Michael, who had made such an effort to keep his children out of the media spotlight, would have been horrified by the images of his grieving children being to millions of fans watching the service on TV. Many fans also held their own tributes. In London, the cast of Thriller Live held 1 minute's silence to pay their respects. Columbia Pictures made a documentary featuring footage from the concert rehearsals, with 90% of the profits going to his estate. The limited release of Michael Jackson's This Is It didn't stop the film from breaking all previous records, and it became the highest-grossing documentary of all time. For many fans, it offered a tantalizing and all too brief glimpse of the unique genius that was Michael Jackson.